Hello, everyone. Welcome to part four of this five-part series where we attempt to design X slash Twitter API. Special welcome to engineering, product, and TPM leaders to this engineering, product, and TPM talks. A special welcome to TPM talkers, builders, doers. I know how challenging it is to move from program management into technical program management, adding that T on top. I'm hoping that these talks will help you in your transition if you're trying to transition. We like to start with a thought that may or may not be related to the discussion. Today's thought of the day is from Rabindranath Tagore, if I pronounced his name properly, who says, "The truth comes as a conqueror only because we have lost the art of receiving it as a guest." So the truth comes as a conqueror because we have lost the art of receiving it as a guest. For me, in particular, this tells me that I need to be more open to feedback, whether positive or negative. And I'm saying, please give me all your feedback on these talks, right? Give me all your feedbacks, like, subscribe. Let me know what is working well for you, what's not working well for you. If I'm talking too fast or too slow or not detailed enough or too detailed, give it to me. So what are we going to cover in this session? In the past sessions, we've looked at functional requirements, non-functional requirements, prerequisites, and supporting services, the design decisions that influence our API. In this one, I want to look at the API model itself. Um, if you have an interview coming up, let me know. I'm happy to give one-to-one coaching. It's particularly important because if you see most recent articles talk about how roles are drying up, particularly white collar roles. This is not just US employers, this happening all around the rich world, the Western world. So the TLDR here is you have to keep learning to keep earning. Okay, so we are by now familiar with the services involved in Twitter's API and their workflow. I think now we can shift our focus to discussing the API endpoints required to fulfill our functional requirements. Okay, so let's start with the base URL. So the following, okay, just a quick call out if I forget. Now, most endpoints are typically self-explanatory, but because the timeline service is more complicated, if you recall that we had the tweet service and the timeline service, I'll focus more on the timeline service just because it's more complicated and it has multiple endpoints. Okay, so the URL here essentially shows the URL for Twitter, okay, for the Twitter services. The api.twitter.com is the host URL, the domain, as we call it sometimes, and v1.0 will represent the version of the API. Okay. Then the last bit is the service. So whether it's the tweets service or the timeline service, that's what you see at the end of the endpoint. Okay. And what these endpoints do is that they go to the same timeline, but they return different artifacts. Okay. In terms of methods, show you some details here. So if you look here, we have our tweet service. You can see the methods create, retrieve, edit, delete. The create method has both the upload post for media, because for media we said Media will first be uploaded to a backend server, and then the media ID will be sent, which is what will be posted in the tweet. And then we have the search service, the comment service, the rate service. We said we're not going to go into the search, comment, and rate service just because they are foundational API designs, and I have videos, just do a search for me, that talk about APIs devoted to these services. And for the timeline service, we explained that from our design, we have three different types of timelines. There's the home timeline, the user's timeline, and the mention timeline. Get my image away from there. And these are the different endpoints that you can expect to see. So what sort of data entities will we use, right? What sort of data entities will we use for our Twitter service? So let's highlight some of them. So the core data entities that we should expect to see will be, like a profile image URL, which will be a hyperlink to link you to the tweet author. The screen name will be a data entity, right? Which we expect to be a string. So just to tell you how it is, the first bit in green is the entity. The next after the colon is the type form. So for example, hyperlink, string, list. And then beyond the two slashes, the backspace is a description of what it does. Okay. Just for clarity, so you understand what this is showing. So we'll also expect to have content, which will be a string that shows the text of the tweet. Place, particularly for people that have their geotagging enabled, so that we know the location of the user and also the location of the tweet. We have a retweet count. Typically, when you retweet, you see the number 1 million, 2 million, etc. That's because we are counting those retweet counts. Trends, typically, again, this may be blind to many people, but transparent to you, there will be a trends list for each individual user or customer that is captured here. Okay, so these are some of the data entities. Now, let me know if there are any other data entities that you would expect to see here that are not, and if this captures all the different elements that you would expect to see as well. Okay, so next thing I want to talk about is the message format for a text-based tweet, and then the message format for a media-based tweet. Okay, so for the text-based tweet, we believe the post verb is suitable because it's good for creating new resources. In terms of request format, we'd expect it to include an authorization header, right? As you can see, an example there, which is good for to ensure that the user is authorized to post the tweet. All tweet related content, we expect it to be passed in the body of the request. That's this bit in the curly braces here. That's the body of the request. And we expect it to include things like the user ID, the content. In this one, the content is technical program managers are the best. Let me know if you believe that. Then the response format. If the tweet is successfully created, we expect a 201 created status in the created tweets attribute to be returned in response. For a tweet with media file, with a media file, so photo, video, I've said a few times, I won't press it, but we need to send an initial request to upload the media file to the server. Then you get a media ID, and that's combined into the tweet. After the media file, the media ID return, then it posts as normal. Okay, so our response format is there. As I just said, you expect to see 201, that's HTTP status. says, and if you remember, I'm not sure if you noticed, but eagle-eyed viewers may notice that it's HTTP 2, version 2 in both post and response, because we did say that that is our preferred media file. That's the description there. So it's always good practice to look at what sort of errors you get, right? So for the timeline, to retrieve the timeline, the obvious choice would be a get, right? I'm sure that's not bringing any surprise anyway. But the request format will also include headers, okay? Essential headers such as the authorization and cookie headers. Transparency is key. And then the cookie header is used to serve personalized content by storing the authenticated user's information, right? So the cookie, beginning to think about cookies now. The cookie stores your authenticated information, and then you can pull, because HTTP is serverless, then we use cookies to sort of maintain that. Sorry, stateless. Why did I say serverless? Stateless. And then we use cookies to sort of preserve the state. It's good practice to capture the possible error responses for your API design. So as part of the package, because typically, I don't know how you do, but in the past when I've designed or developed APIs, we typically create documentation as well. The documentation should show what are the expected error states that you can have. So I've listed a few for our design here, such as 400 says there's a bad request. 403, you're trying to access a resource that's not privileged. Lots of people hate 403s. I hate them personally. 503, which says that the server is unavailable, or the service is unavailable due to overloading, maintenance, or some internal issue. That's the response when it's okay. The 200 response means there's no error. It's good to go. You're good to go. You get your content. So this was a little bit of a longer session, but let me know if you have any questions, if you do this differently, if you agree with the API model that's been designed. In previous sessions, we covered NFRs, supporting services, design decisions, and now we have just completed the API model. I'll pause here and say, if you have any questions, let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please follow. Let me know what content you'd like to see next. We have one more chapter, which will be super technical. So get ready for that.